Welcome back to Halftime Habaneros with your hosts Justin and Matt here with Champions Round. And as always, make sure you guys take advantage of the promo code below. Spicy. Get $10 of free play. Play Spicy Slips on the app. Live bet during your games. The best way to play. Matt, my man, we got an interesting NBA slate today. Of course, we'll be covering over the Daily Dozen as normal. And then we'll get into the 4-game slate, pick out some winners, and talk about some things that's going on in the association. My man, Matt, how are you doing today, dog?
I'm doing great. You know what? Last time we were on this show, I was over the moon. The Bulls had just beaten the 76ers. And less than 2 days later, they get absolutely destroyed. I turned the game off in the second quarter because we were down 30 points. At one point, it was 21-1 in the first quarter. So I'm trying to put that aside. I'm excited to get into these Daily Dozen and just talk hoops with you afterwards.
Yeah, I went to that game the last time we were on. I went to the Kings and Celtics game, and bro, it was ugly. Like first half, things were all good, and then it got ugly. So, but since then, a lot of things have happened with my Lakers that I've been very happy about. So, we can touch on that a little bit. LeBron's expected to be back here very, very soon. I think even this weekend it was just announced. So, we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed. But I know as always, we got to get into this Daily Dozen.
We do. So first off, we have Jalen Brunson's total points at 24.5 tonight against the Magic. Do you like the over or the under?
I think I'm going to roll with the over on this one. You know, Jalen Brunson's been a big key for this Knicks team. And against this Magic team, you know, we've seen a little bit of up and down. Last time we had Bradley Beal in this situation against the Magic. I took the over and it went under. But I think Jalen Brunson, for what he means to this Knicks team, he could hit it. Hits the over.
I like it too. How many games? He's been back, 2 or 3 games now, I want to say. I agree. I think I was looking at some of his numbers, and he was at like 24, 25, 23. So he's right around that number, but I'm going to take the over as well. Up next, we have his teammate, Julius Randle's total at 26.5.
You know, a lot of times when players come back from injury, they try to get their other guys in a groove, become a little bit more passive. I don't think that's the case with Julius Randle. Give me the over 26.5 on this one. He's a guy that goes and gets his no matter what, especially when it's a little bit of a weaker opponent. And Paolo Banchero on the other side, I think he's going to be up for the challenge.
I'm taking the over on this as well. I don't know. I love watching Julius Randle play. Like, there's so many times where I'm watching like a Knicks game and – you know, the shot clock's coming down and he just bails them out. Like the way he's able to create his own shot and some of the, like his shot making ability is off the charts. Like that's the one thing. I think was it a Celtics game? There was one, or no, it was a Heat game where he hit that crazy game winner. I mean, he's fantastic. So
he just dropped 57 the other day.
Yeah, too. I was going to say.
We know he could score.
Yeah, exactly. So up next, we have the man you were just talking about, Paolo Banchero's total at 19.5 against the Knicks.
You know, I'm going to go under. This total seems a little low and like he can hit it. But with Paulo, this is, you know, he's going to have a tough matchup there on the other side. And I think there will be some like mano-a-mano because Paolo Banchero and Julius Randle are kind of similar. I'm not going to say that they're the same type of player, but have some similarities in their games. I think he'll be up for the challenge, but I'm not sure he gets to 19.5. Give me the under.
I'm going to go over here and assuming that it's a high-scoring game. I don't know. I feel like I don't really have much reason to say this, but I'm feeling a big game from Paulo tonight, maybe 25, 26. I think he skies over that over, but we'll see. And up next,
he's been a little, you know, over the last few games, he's got 4 out of his last 6 games have gone under that 20, and he's been right around there his entire rookie season so far. So that 19.5 is like spot on the number. I just think he's been a little bit less consistent than that 20, so that's where I'm rocking with the under.
What about Mikal Bridges, 23.5? Now, a few nights ago,
the celebration.
I believe I gave out his over, and he hit the under by a lot. So I'm going to stay back on this. I'm going to see what you have to say. 23.5 against the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I always love when you're able to get, you know, a good Mikal Bridges celebration in there, you know, with the teammates. But against this Cleveland team, they're going to need to put up some points. So I actually like the over with Mikal Bridges. He's been a kind of a resurgent, you know, kind of a blessing in disguise for this Nets team. So give me the over, Mikal Bridges.
This is off topic, Justin, but now I think this is the second game. These two teams played on Tuesday when we were talking, right?
Yes.
And the same thing with, I was looking at the schedule. Oklahoma City also played the Clippers.
Did Tuesday. They?
Because
that's right. That's where Paul George got hurt. You're right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to go with the over here on Mikal Bridges as well. I'm seeing it. I think he's going to bounce back, have a good night tonight against Cleveland. Up next, we have Donovan Mitchell, who had that crazy poster dunk.
Yes.
26.5 points. What are your thoughts?
He actually scored 30 in that game too. And so I'm looking at him like, you know what? A little bit of recency bias here. I'm going to go with the over on that as well. Give me Donovan Mitchell over. I think he gets to the 30-point marker in this game as well.
Okay, I like that as well. I'm going to say he's going to hit like 27, 28, just barely touch that over. And up next, we have Jared Allen, his teammate, versus Brooklyn.
He's back, and this is kind of a revenge game.
It is. That's a good point.
It's a revenge game for Jared Allen, who was out with injury for a while. So he's came back, and he came back against, I want to say, with that Brooklyn might have been his first matchup. So give me this is like spot. I feel like this is like spot on his number. Like it'll be 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that range. Let's go over with Jared Allen. He tends to be in like that 10 to 15 range.
This seems like it's either going to be 12 or 13 points for Jared Allen. I feel like he's either just going to slightly hit the over or slightly hit the under. I'm going to lean under here. I don't know. I could see it both ways, but I'm going to go under.
It's tough with with the guys who are like non-scorers, because Jared Allen he's normally like 15-point guy, somewhere in that range. And, when they're non-scorers, if they have an off day or just a tough matchup, like Nick Claxton is a tough matchup. So they're going to go through and they're not obviously working the offense through Jared Allen, but he could have like 4 putbacks and that's 8 points. Yeah. It just throws our whole number off.
Exactly. So. An alley-oop here, a putback, and a rebound. And all of a sudden he's at 8 points in the first quarter and you're sweating it big time. Now we're going to go to Kelly Oubre Jr., 22.5 points. How do you feel about that number?
Oh, I'm going over. Kelly Oubre, since LaMelo's went down, this has been his team scoring wise. He's put up 20 in almost every game, it feels like, since LaMelo's went down. So Kelly Oubre's out there looking out for one person right now, and that's Kelly Oubre. Give me the over on his number, bro.
I'm going to just side with you here and say over for all the reasons that you just said. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't tune into very many Hornets games. I just don't. There's, when LaMelo's out there, there's always some fun, but I haven't watched much of the Hornets. I'm going to go over. Now, on the other side, I think another player that we did talk about was Brandon Ingram, and his points are at 27.5 tonight. Do you see the over or the under?
I really, Brandon Ingram has taken a bigger scoring role on since he's come back from his injury too, and he's been picking it up as of late. I'm still going to go with the under here because I kind of feel like this game might get out of hand against the Hornets. The Hornets, they're not a very good basketball team, as you mentioned, but it feels like if this game gets out of hand, they might rest Brandon Ingram a little bit, so keep him healthy. Give me the under.
I think I'm going to go over here. I don't know why. I could see Ingram going for like 28, 29. What you just said, though, does scare me. Like if the game is a blowout and he doesn't really play in the fourth quarter and, he's sitting at like 22 points. But I'm going to go with the over here. Now,
he's been a good player for this team. And, we'll talk about it here in a minute. But it's been kind of interesting to see, like, without Zion, we've seen CJ McCollum step up at times. We've seen Brandon Ingram, when he's been healthy, step up at times. This team needs some kind of consistency in order to make the play-in tournament.
How do you feel about another total points at 16.5 for Valanciunas versus against the Charlotte Hornets? Excuse me. We're looking at that same matchup here. Are you on the over or are you on the under?
Jonas has been on fire recently. Played against Houston twice last week and had 20-point games in both matchups. So scoring output's been a little bit of a resurgence too. So either he's picking it up or maybe he was taking advantage of bad matchups. Either way, this is a bad matchup. So I'm going to continue on the trend here. It's a little higher than what he normally scores, but give me the over with Jonas. So it's 16.5, right?
16.5 is the number.
Yeah,
I'm going to go over as well. And I feel like I'm taking too many overs. I'm banking on a lot of high-scoring games, which, that could be my downfall. But I'm going to take the over as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander versus the Los Angeles Clippers. 31.5 points. It's a big number. How you feel?
That's a big number. And in a situation where this Clippers team is kind of fighting right now for their positioning, Shai has been scoring over 30 points in almost all of his most recent games. So this number, while it seems high, he averages 31 on the year. Like, I'm gonna go with the law averages because this is also a revenge game for him too. A former Clipper, going back to the LA, the scene of the crime. So give me the over 31 points.
You briefly brought it up, but Paul George, he's expected to miss the rest. Is he out for the season or is it just the regular season?
Reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll get into a little bit more of the Clippers, but yeah, it's not looking too good for them, at least with this more recent surge that they're trying to like position themselves,
Yeah, and it's crazy when you look at those West standings, how close things are, and a brutal loss for the Clippers. I'm gonna go on the over as well for Shea here. There's one time this year, it was the second game back of the All-Star break. I took a bet on Shea's over. It was like 32.5, I think. And he ended up scoring like 18 points. And I was like, then the next game he had 40. He had like 42 or 43 the next game. I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. But I'm going to rock with Shea. I'm going to take the over. Kawhi Leonard, 29.5 points. No Paul George, over, under.
This feels like one of those times where like he has to go over. Paul George is out, but I'm still going to rock with the under here. This is a little unconventional. I think the assumption is that he's going to uptick his scoring with Paul George out in a matchup against the Thunder, which should be pretty high scoring. But I'm going to roll with the under here. I think Kawhi does score at a higher level, but I'm not giving him a 30-point game this game.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what this number was at, 2 nights ago. Would you say it was close to like 25, 26? Where do you think it would have stood?
Probably 26.5.
26.5. I think I'm going to go under as well. I think, like you said, the assumption here is that, Kawhi's going to have to step up. And, they got so many scoring options. There's a lot of guys to that when you watch like a Clippers game, you're like, okay, that's not Kawhi. That's not Paul George. Like, Norman Powell's a stud. I think I'm going to go under here. Maybe Kawhi goes for 30, but I could see it closer to like 27, 28.
Yeah. I think it'll be close, like high 20s, somewhere in that 25 to 30 range, but I don't think he gets to quite 30.
And finally, Russell Westbrook, 17.5 points.
Russell Westbrook has not hit in the month of March.
Okay.
Russell Westbrook's hit the 17-point total once. His role with this team isn't to score, even with Paul George out. I don't think 17. I think 17 is still a little too high. This team's going to lean on other players that have been there and have roles, and I think there's a different purpose for Russ outside of just scoring on his team right now. So I'm going to take the under when it comes to Westbrook.
I feel like I'm just agreeing with you here. Guys, I promise. Like, I have my own opinion.
Convincing,
okay?
You know what I'm saying? I might be a little convincing here and there.
But, when Justin's bringing stats into it, guys, and, starts talking about the full month and all that, I'm going to rock with the under as well for Russell Westbrook. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for our Daily Dozen portion of the video. Make sure you guys do download the Champions Round app. You can play Daily Dozen free. You can play it for cash, all that stuff, and use that promo code right there if you guys want to save yourself some money. Now, Justin, let's transition to NBA news, maybe talk about some of the games tonight. I want to hear how you're feeling after a huge win last night for the Lakers.
Bro, that was big time. And, I know the refereeing was an issue, the officiating, but I'll take a win as a Laker fan. Right now, we are currently in the play-in game as the 10 seed, so I cannot be mad at that. And that's something that I think the Lakers can hold on to, especially with the imminent return of LeBron James. So we do have a 4-game slate tonight. We got Knicks Magic, obviously, we talked about that game, Cavs, Nets, Hornets, Pelicans, Thunder, Clippers. Get into that first one, though, the Knicks and the Magic. The Knicks are 3.5-point favorites. They've been playing well the second half of the year, really turned it on there in the month of January, February. Do you think the Knicks have what it takes, Matt, to make a deep playoff run? Because this team, it doesn't have like the superstars, right? It's got the Jalen Brunsons and the Julius Randle. So some like fringe all-star talent, but like the East is kind of stacked.
Yeah, I think this is a team that could definitely get out of the first round. After that, I'm not sure how they're going to fare against a Boston or Milwaukee. I think it kind of depends on where the matchups stand. But I've been really impressed with this New York Knicks team, and adding a player like Josh Hart. I think this is a team that has exceeded its expectations this season. And I got a buddy that's a Knicks fan, and he's been over the moon. But we'll see what happens come playoff time.
Yeah, it's they'll have that matchup. I think they're going to be stuck in that matchup with the Cavs. They've been rocking the 4 seed or the 5 seed all season long. So it seems like it's inevitable that this Cavs team and this Knicks team are going to pair up together. So I'm curious because this is the first time we'll see the Cavs in the playoff format with Donovan Mitchell. But this Knicks team has, they've had times where they look good in the playoffs and the other times where they haven't. So they folded against the Atlanta Hawks a couple years ago. I think they're looking for redemption this year in the playoffs. I think they can win a series, but they're not going to beat Milwaukee if they play them in the next round. So for me, I guess I'm looking at it as do I really think Jalen Brunson is the difference? We talked about Jalen Brunson and his importance to this team, Matt, but is he really the difference on this Knicks team? I don't know.
And let me ask you something. If they were, let's say they win their first round matchup against the Cavaliers, and then they, go out in 5 or whatever in the second round, would that be considered a successful season if you're a New York Knicks fan?
It's tough because I think you have to view it as a successful season, right? Julius Randle got in as an all-star this year. The team looked cohesive. You got guys figuring out their roles. And so I think this Knicks team has put everybody on notice that they're not just a back-end team in the East, but they're one of the, above average teams in the East, right? They're not yet elite, and maybe they're a piece away. And New York is such a big market. There's a player that can say, you know what? They got the framework now with Brunson and Randall. Let me come in and be the differentiating piece. So I think they're pretty close. It feels like they're close, kind of like how this Cleveland team we're going to talk about in a second, they went and acquired Donovan Mitchell. It feels like the Knicks could go get one more piece and become an elite team. But speaking of Cavs, dude, Cavs and Nets are on the agenda for the next game. The Cavs are 4.5-point favorites heading into Brooklyn. Now, we talked about the Knicks, Matt, and you mentioned they could win their first round matchup, which, as we talked about, would probably be a bit against the Cavs right now. Do the Cavs have what it takes? Because a lot of people wanted to crown the Cavs as this top 3 team in the East, could surprise in the East once they got Donovan Mitchell. You think this team can actually go in and win a playoff series against the Knicks and then make a deeper run?
I think my answers maybe changed a little bit. At the beginning of the season, I was watching the Cavaliers and I was like, oh my gosh, this, like you said, this is a top 3 team in the East. This is a team that's going to be a serious problem. Outside of Donovan Mitchell, I do worry about their experience. They're so young, and I think a Knicks series is kind of a toss-up in my eyes. I don't know. Right now, if the season ended and they were facing each other, I'm not really sure which way I'd lean. There's a part of me that wants to go Cleveland. There's another part of me that wants to go New York. I'm kind of on the fence right now about this Cavalier team. What about yourself?
Well, I don't blame you for that. And another big thing I think that matters is home court advantage, right?
Yeah.
The Knicks go to Madison Square Garden, and that's their matchup for, they get home court advantage over that series. That's a different matchup than Cleveland having home court advantage. So right now, the Cavs currently sit in the 4 spot. That's a very important seeding right now to make sure that they get home court over the Knicks, because I think the Knicks in Madison Square Garden aren't losing that series. But I kind of think vice versa. If Cleveland has home court advantage, I don't see them losing the series. So I think home court advantage is all necessary when it comes to that Cleveland Knicks series. I don't really see this Cavs team being a threat, though. No. Donovan Mitchell, I'm not in on smaller guards leading a team. It typically doesn't end well, and especially with the powerhouses that are in there at the top of the East, them having to play the Bucks, maybe the Celtics, Sixers at some point. I just don't see it working out too well for this Cavs team. I like them, though. They're young. It just doesn't feel like there's anything more in store for them,
Yeah.
But on to the next game, Hornets and Pelicans. The Hornets are playing for Victor Wembanyama. We're not really worried about them. Both you and I talked about it. We're not really checking for the Hornets. But this Pelicans team, man, they were in the play-in tournament for a while and have dropped out as of recent times. Zion's still not here. And all season long, we're like, where is Zion? He'll be back in 2 weeks. He's on the mend. He's getting better. What do we do about this whole Zion situation? It seems mad confusing to me, bro. I'm like, what's going on here? Something's deeper. He was supposed to be back on the team in January, and yet and still he's not back.
No, it is I have a Zion Duke jersey in my closet. I loved Zion Williamson in high school. I remember watching highlights, and I saw a tweet yesterday that was interesting that we can maybe talk about. Let's say the Pelicans look to move Zion. What would a package look like for a player like him? Obviously when he's on the court, he's an all-star, he's dominant, but he just can't seem to stay healthy, unfortunately.
Zion to me is the kind of player that when he's in the league, he's a top 5 player in the league.
Yeah.
But he can't stay on the court.
No.
And then there's something going on to where when he gets injured, He just misses the rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's not like AD. AD will get hurt and be out for 10 games, 15, but we know he's like actively trying to get on. He's just injury prone.
Yeah.
When it comes to Zion, it's like, bro, or do you want to play basketball?
Yeah.
Are you that hurt? Like, well, you can't, is your knee hurt? Is your ankle hurt? Do you have too much weight on you? Like, he spent this whole offseason getting into shape, came out chiseled. And now we're in the middle of the season. It's like 22 games in. We were talking about potential MVP. The Pelicans were a top 3 seed. And now they've fallen all the way out of the playoff race. And it's solely due to the fact that he's not on the court.
Yeah,
I can't understand what's going on.
He's so young. Like, this is way too early in his career for stuff like this to be happening. I'm not really sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Zion Williamson. You know, obviously being the number 1 overall pick and being, you know, such a huge name has brought a lot of pressure. And when he's on the court, you know, he lives up to the name. He lives up to all that, but he hasn't been able to seem to stay healthy, unfortunately.
Sad case, man. And we talk about injuries. Paul George was injured on Tuesday, and it looked a lot worse than what it was. Expected to be out for 2 to 3 weeks at least. He's going to be reevaluated, but it looked like it could have been a major injury, and he looks to have dodged that for now. Going up against this Clippers team again, we have to see Paul George healthy for this Clippers team to make a playoff run. If he's not back, Matt, do you think this Clippers team is still stacks against some of these other teams in the West, or is it absolutely mandatory that he gets back? Because we see Russ is going to, we know what Russ is going to do on this team, and we've seen this team win with Paul George and without Kawhi. Is it possible for this Clippers team to make a deep playoff run without Paul George?
I don't think so. I don't. I'm torn because, like, I think the absence of like Kawhi Leonard allowed some of these younger guys like Terrence Mann to develop a lot faster than they maybe would have if these guys were, some of the stars were healthy. But at the same time, I think Paul George is such a huge piece to this Clippers team. And, you know, obviously I still think Kawhi Leonard is the better player, but I think, you know, when you're looking at the Los Angeles Clippers, like, I automatically think of Paul George. And I think, you know, with how stacked the West is and the fact that, you know, even teams like Golden State that are maybe, you know, closer to the bottom in a playoff series, like, they're still the defending champions, right? You still got the Los Angeles Lakers, like the Nuggets have looked incredible all season long. Like, you got a lot of really, really good teams. And for a player like Paul George to be out right now, I feel for my Clippers fans. I do.
Yeah, I don't feel for him at all as a Lakers fan, but this isn't the same team. Like you mentioned, it's kind of weird because when you think about this Clippers team, you do kind of think of like Paul George as the guy. So it's interesting to see that, but you know, a lot of times with this, you know, with these type of injuries, that you find out a little bit more about your team. And we talked about the depth of this Clippers team at times. So now is the time you figure out, is this team really as deep as we thought, or was it really superstar driven with Kawhi and Paul George? Not to mention the fact, man, some people say I look like Paul George, bro. I don't see it. I don't see it at all, bro.
I wanted to get your thoughts on last night's Warriors-Mavericks game, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, no Kyrie, you know, Andrew Wiggins is still out, but I saw something that was like the first time Golden State's record on the road is horrible. I don't know if you've seen that, like, and I think that was the first time they'd won like back-to-back road games since like I think maybe it was the playoffs last year or something crazy like that. Do you still view like Golden State, like, are they a top 3 team in your eyes in the West come playoff time?
Absolutely. Okay. And I'm not going to tear them down until I see them lose in the playoffs. When they're at full strength, we've seen this team for almost the last decade be a threat. And so when I think of playoffs in a 7-game series, championship pedigree matters. Do you have what it takes to win in a 7-game series? So when I look at the Suns, I think KD, Devin Booker, CP3, they're up there for me. When I think of the Warriors, they're another team that's up there. They have the championship pedigree. The team like the Lakers coming out of the play-in, like, that's a scary team to me because of the championship pedigree. So that's earned, man. And so when I look at this Warriors team, I can't take that away from them until I see them lose.
We got everything
it's a
covered.
Good slate for tonight. And we'll have to, with Halftime Habaneros, guys, we're going to continue to give you guys more information as the playoffs come along. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We'll try to do this a little bit more regularly as well. Make sure you guys also watch out for short content coming our way, or coming your way, I should say. And also take advantage of the offer below. We don't mention it already, but get free $10. Play Spicy Slips while you're watching the games. You can live bet during the action. So get it on the Champions Round app. From Justin and Matt here with Champions Round. We'll see you on the next Halftime Habaneros. Peace out.